Hello, Jax West from Stephen Avery Project and Justice with Jax and MAM Gossip. I went live earlier today on my Justice with Jax YouTube channel, and then my computer downstairs does this dumb thing that all of a sudden it'll randomly shut off. And then I couldn't get that computer up. And then I came upstairs to this one and tried to do live on YouTube up here. YouTube wouldn't let me go live. Then I had to run some errands. And now I have roughly 45 minutes right now before I have something I have to do. So I have now watched episodes 1 and 2 of this mockumentary called Convicting a Murderer. This Convicting a Murderer is something this idiot made years ago and has been shopping around and wasn't able to find anybody that would pay him for it until Candace Owens. And you can now get this on this website called Daily Wire that I had to pay. Well, my husband paid $15. It's $15 a month to have access to this. So I've paid the $15 so you don't have to. Don't watch this garbage. And so while I watched it, I took notes. And that's what I'm going to go over with you now, as much as I can. Um, Hold on a second. Bye. Okay. Guilters need not be here. If I see you posting anything as a guilter, you're just going to be banned and your comment will be deleted. So don't bother, don't waste anybody's time because Stephen Avery Project believes in Stephen's innocence and we're not going there. Okay? So I knew when Candace Owens got involved with this trash that it was only going to get worse. Sorry, I know she's got her fans. I am not one of them. So, to me, having Candace Owens be the host of this just tells you from the get go that this isn't going to be based in facts and that this is going to be a hatchet job. So, okay, I'm not going to be able to get into things as deeply as I want to right now since I do only have roughly 45 minutes. So, let me get started with my notes. Episode 1 is calling An Unraveling Narrative. And it starts with a jail call with Debbie about the documentarians who made Making a Murderer. If you go to my Justice with Jax YouTube channel, there is a whole playlist of Stephen's jail calls. His jail calls are when he hadn't gone to trial yet for Teresa Halbach. That's you go to jail first, and then once you're convicted, then you go to prison. And so somebody got all of those calls and we watched them and discussed them. And that's where we first met or learned about this Debbie woman. Debbie was somebody who was married and is a lonely housewife in a bad marriage. And she had seen Stephen's case on Penny Bernstein and that he got out and was innocent And then when the Teresa Halbach case started, she immediately believed in his innocence and started writing to Stephen. And then they had some kind of a relationship. She got close with his family, and she would refer to herself as his girlfriend. And so she is the one that was the initial contact with the documentarians from Making a Murderer. And so they play a piece of a call between Stephen and Debbie where she's telling Stephen about the documentarians. And then we see an interview with the documentarians talking about the case. And then we also see Dean Strang at one of the tour events that he had done where he's talking about the documentarians and how they got involved. One of my notes is they play pathetic, dramatic music behind everything. They're trying to mimic Making a Murderer. And when you watch Making a Murderer, how haunting that music was and would make you feel something. Well, they're trying to replicate that, but now playing music to make it look like Steven is bad. And I just found the dramatic music to be cheesy. It's the Debbie Show. So then they go to 10 years later, Making a Murderer comes out. And that's where we meet a couple of people on camera. Oh boy, I have so much to say about the people who spoke to anybody involved in this piece of shit mockumentary. There are people who consider themselves to be supporters when really all they are just fans. And it's going to get worse when we get into episode 2 because the people in there, boy. So, all right, so first we meet somebody who they label as a case enthusiast, which we learn later on in this first episode is really just a guilter. Then we meet this girl who, even in my notes, I called her gross. I've met her before when Strang and Buting had their tour here in Chicago. Buting actually gave me tickets to attend that. I was sitting next to his wife, and then he had me come backstage to talk to him. And so this woman was back there, and she had made a shirt with Buting's name on it that she made a shirt to give to him too. And she's just like, oh my God, Hercules. The way she was obsessing over Buting, I just found really creepy and weird. And she has since then said and done some things. Ooh, Jason Matthews says they used content of mine in episode 2. Did not get permission. That's interesting. I'm curious to see if they use anything from Stephen Avery Project, because gonna sound like a douchebag right here, but Stephen Avery Project, it was the first Stephen Avery supporter Facebook page and had and probably still has on Facebook the biggest audience. Nobody from this mess ever reached out to me to be a part of it. Oh, Millbilly, hi. Nobody ever reached out to me to use anything from Stephen Avery Project. But I did see, I think in both episode 1 and episode 2, they show Curtis. Curtis is who started Stephen Avery Project. I took over for him when he had had enough of being abused by the Avery family. So they show Curtis. They don't mention him or put his name up there or anything. But, yeah. So, and then the other person they show that they call a case enthusiast is, only time I'll say this douchebag's name, is Richard Donovan. That douchebag started out as an alleged supporter, and then he went guilter. Went guilter so hardcore that he actually visited Ken Kratz and his child bride at one point, and then he went to one of the Avery Dassey rallies where you see Steven's niece Carla with her arm around him and her head on her shoulder. Where, how are you calling yourself the family spokesperson and running pages like you're a Steven supporter and have your arm around and your head on this guilter? And so that douche has been after me for years, has posted, tweeted all this stuff about me. Whatever, dude. So I find it very interesting because, in my opinion, nobody who is a true supporter of Stephen Avery would have been on this show. So if you're on that show, a willing participant of that show, you are not a supporter. You are a fan, and you just wanted to be on TV. And you make me sick. Okay, so then you see some of the reporters that you had seen in Making a Murderer. And the chick with the glasses, Anjanette Levy, Dan something or another. So those are a couple reporters who are now part of this mockumentary. They show press footage of Stephen's release from after the Penny Bernstein case. And then there is press in 2005 about Teresa Halbach missing and interview with Stephen talking about the missing girl. And I found it really interesting that the reporter Dan says there that he thought it was interesting that that Stephen was the prime suspect in the Teresa Halbach case and the likely murderer. So right away, again, no fact, no whatever, just jumping to Stephen's the likely murderer. Whatever, dude. Then we see the Halbach family search party where, so Anjanette had interviewed the Halbach brothers where Michael referred to Teresa Halbach in the past tense, which Anjanette thought was weird. I talked about this on the YouTube thing that I'd started earlier and got rudely cut off from. The whole Halbach family search party thing is something that I think is very problematic. Starting with the fact that the family didn't know she was missing for days, and Teresa lived right next door to her parents, had a roommate that she also would have sex with, and the family had to be notified by her boss that she was missing. But now they're also concerned in this search party. But whatever, I digress. Then we see stuff on Teresa Halbach's cousin, Pam of God, finding the RAV4 in less than 30 minutes at a salvage yard that have over 4,000 cars. And when she was calling it in, as it was worded on the mockumentary, that Pam acted like she just won a game show. But yet, and they showed the clip of when Pam's on the stand, it's God showed them the way to find the car. You can find my video on the Justice with Jax YouTube channel where my husband and I walked that path and timed it and proved that there is no way that Pam Sturm could have found that RAV4 as quickly as she did without being told to go there. And since I've only got the 45 minutes or not even a half hour at this point, I'm not going to get fully into that. But since this is only covering 2 of 10 episodes, I'm sure I'm going to get the opportunity to rip into that some more. I just want to get over as much of covering these first 2 episodes as I can, because I've paid that $15, so you don't have to. Don't give these people any money and watch this crap. Um, then they go to that they searched Steven's trailer and found the magical key 3 days later after 7 searches. It was Lank and Colburn who were there to find it, yet they were about to be deposed in Stephen Avery's wrongful conviction lawsuit. And they're also involved in finding the magic bullet after how many searches and how much time had passed, and everything has dust all over it except for the magic bullets. They showed the clip of Kohlberg on the stand and hearing his call that he is clearly looking at Teresa's license plate when he had called that in. They then talk about the blood vial, and they're making it out when they're showing clips from Making a Murder when Dean Strang uncovers that blood vial, like that is trying to mislead people. No, they're showing you something in real time. And yes, when you open that, well, you see that blood vial, the casing it's been in, the tape's been cut and the chain of custody has been broke. So somebody has opened that up, period. And if you open that up and you see a hole on the top of a vial and you are not a medical expert or a phlebotomist who draws blood, so you see the hole in this vial that's been, how old was that vial at that time? 19 years old? Yeah, you're instantly going to think that had to have been fresh. We learned back at the time when Making a Murderer first came out that there's going to be a hole in the top of the vial because that is how the blood gets in the vial. So that was dropped back then, myself included, until the last year or so, because my husband, the weirdo prepper, has those exact vials. And so it's another video we did at some point that you can find on one of my pages where my husband drew his own blood and put it in the vial. And that's how we were able to see that there was the hole on the top of the vial. But guess who still has that vial? Me. And I always have it right here on top of my desk. If you look at this vial now, I don't know how I can, there's no hole on here anymore. Hole is gone. Because that's the thing with these, what is it called, Vacutainer? You know, that it self-seals. That's how you're able to put the needle in here or whatever. And my husband's blood is not even, you can barely even see, you know, it's all gone. It did eventually coagulate or whatever. But the hole is gone. No hole. So, and nobody talks about this but me. That again brings me back to, if there's a hole in that vial, then a needle had been stuck in it recently, because my husband did this in 2016 and here it is 2023 and the hole is gone. I don't know how long the hole's been gone, but the hole is gone now. You would never know a needle got put in this tube. Then it goes to March 2006, Brendan confessing. They show the clip of his interrogation where they say who shot her in the head, and Brendan saying he did, which that doesn't mean shit. So this own mockumentary, who is trying to call out Making a Murderer for not showing you everything, they're not showing you right there Brendan's whole interrogation. They're not showing you that they led Brendan to get to that point. What did you do to her head? Punched her, cut her hair, cut her throat. Brendan's guessing, trying to come up with what to do, until one of those idiots says, I'm just going to come out and say this. Who shot her in the head? They needed Brendan to say that of his own volition. Volition? How do you say that word? Because the day before this interrogation is when the magic bullet was found. Prior to that, there was nothing in this case saying that Teresa Halbach was shot. And Brendan had never said anything about shot. So now they have to call Brendan back in or steal Brendan from school and take him back in and get him to say she was shot. So that's why they're saying, what did you do to her head? Because thinking somebody with average intelligence would pick up on, well, then maybe it's shot in the head. Brendan's not getting it. Brendan doesn't have average intelligence, and he's just this sweet kid who can't hurt a fly, isn't going to shoot anybody. Um, so by them saying who did it, you just led the witness, and it should be totally inadmissible, but whatever. They then say that Brendan was found guilty on August 2nd. This is where I got cut off in my when I did the YouTube earlier, because I made a mark on my notes now so I would remember. This is one of the things in Stephen's case and Making a Murderer that makes me so mad is when the judge says you are probably the most dangerous individual to ever set foot in this courtroom. How so? What has he done to make him the most dangerous? That always annoys the shit out of me. Oh, and so the Gilter chick, I had to read I'll read you what my note said, but I had to now think about in my head what that note meant. It says, chick thinks jury had to have info we didn't have since they convicted him. So that's the Gilter chick, where they're trying to say, oh, yeah, people from Making a Murder and everything, you don't have everything the jury does. They knew more. They convicted them. No, the jury, things get tossed and they don't have access to it. We actually know more than a jury does. A jury does not get everything involved in a case. So I truly don't care what a jury has to say on things. They don't have all the facts. I served on a jury. I know firsthand. A jury doesn't get all the facts, and it's stupid. Then they're trying to tie Making a Murderer to the Black Lives Matter movement. And since this is a Candace Owens production, and Candace Owens only claims to be black now when it serves her and is somebody who wants to knock Black Lives Matter, she said, I kid you not, this is so offensive, that people that got on board with Making a Murderer and believing in Stephen's innocence, she said it's because white people just wanted their Michael Brown moment. So she's insinuating that this is white people's revenge for black people being upset about black people being killed by police. Are you fucking kidding me right now? That is so unbelievably offensive. I do not care what color Stephen Avery is. I go by the science and the evidence. Everything shows that Stephen Avery is innocent. If he was black, I'd be saying the same thing. This is not me out trying to get, because that's what they were claiming too. It's like, we're out to get the police because police kill black people. No. Now, I am a supporter of Black Lives Matter. And I know that's something that's going to get many people here on Stephen Avery Project upset with me. I am a supporter of Black Lives Matter, and I've actually met the founder, one of the founders, Alicia Garza, of Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter was founded by black moms wanting to protect their black sons. We're not going to get into the politics of everything. But that is so offensive that you're going to claim I only support Stephen because I'm a white person and I need revenge for Black Lives Matter. Disgusting. Then they talked about the petitions that started right after Making a Murderer and showing celebrities' tweets in support of Stephen, and that Reddit started. and Facebook groups starting. Vincent, we will get into that, as that is stuff they have in here. So as it comes up, I will get into it. And it is fine that you asked me that question. Um, but let me just state, and you didn't say anything wrong right there, so nobody attacked this person. But let me just remind people again, this is a page that supports Stephen's innocence. And if anybody comes on here trying to say Stephen is guilty and all of that, and want to cause a fight and name calling and all of that, we're going to ban and remove. So let me just remind people of that. And that brings us to in the mockumentary where they showed now fights start between the sides, and they start to show screenshots of pretty nasty language, always from the guilter side, attacking what the mockumentary is referring to as truthers. And then we saw the clip of Curtis, the founder of Stephen Avery Project, at the rally, the very first rally that was done at the courthouse that Curtis organized, but somebody else is claiming credit. We'll get into that later. So now the woman who is on this the most is somebody I've never heard of, this Brenda Schuler, that they give her title as a producer and researcher. But this person worked on Griesbach with his book and Ken Kratz with his book. So she's the one that does a lot of the interviewing with all these wannabes that just wanted to be on TV for this case. So she's in so far the first and second episode that I've seen. I haven't watched any of the rest yet. So then one of the guys, they were making it out like making a murderer really got him to think that oh really, Brenda is who convinced Colburn to take out his lawsuit. Thanks, Millbilly. Millbilly has a YouTube channel who he's way more on top of making videos and everything than I am. I so slack off. So check out Millbilly's page or channel or whatever it's called on YouTube. Okay, so this guy, making a murderer was so swayed he thought Stephen was innocent. And so now they show him saying, as I dig deeper, things didn't make sense. Too many things point away from what the documentary said when he started digging in. Well, you're a douchebag, because I also, after watching Making a Murderer, did full hour work days digging into this case. And if you truly look into this case, into everything, you find more stuff not covered in Making a Murderer that shows that he's innocent. So whatever, dude. So then they talk about the Avery family history and trying, the Avery family are not good people, blah, blah, blah. I already know that. Thanks. Then they show, I'm only gonna say these people's names once because they want the publicity, is foul play. Foul play is just that, foul. That group. So they're also involved in here talking to the thing. So you're not a true supporter if you're gonna be a part of this mess. So they show them a little bit. Talk gets into how Stephen broke into a bar, and then Candace is like, Making a Murder didn't show you everything on that because Stephen really broke in 3 times. And so it wasn't just $14 and a sandwich. They didn't show on Making a Murderer that he also trashed the place. And throughout the 2 episodes I saw too, They're trying to dismiss people like me who dismiss things like this in Stephen's history. I tell you over and over again in all the years I've been involved in this case, you know, that Stephen's done some bad things. Stephen's not the greatest guy. I'm not telling you Stephen is a saint. I'm just saying the things that he did does not automatically mean you kill a woman, some random woman. We'll get into more of the stuff they did because this mockumentary just wants to tear Stephen apart and show all the bad. So, I don't care how many times he broke into places. I don't care how many times he trashed places. That doesn't mean he kills somebody. There's something complete different. They're completely different. And yeah, we'll get into Avery family crap and things that they did. And what did Sweaty Sweat Ken Kratz do with his sexting finger? So then Ken Kratz killed people. Because look what he did. So then Len could what is Len's last name? It's been a while since I thought of it. Millbilly? Q Millbilly. What's Len's last name? I want to say Kaczynski. Is that his last name? Meow Meow guy? Then he's killed people. Just because people do things does not mean murder. So then Candace says Stephen would go on joyrides with people and break into places and steal stuff. Yep. I had a family member that did shit like that too. He didn't kill anybody. And it says the stuff that Stephen would steal on these joyrides that they would bring to Crivets. Thank you, Melissa. And that Alan Avery called the cops because he found the stuff in Crivets. And one of Stephen's, Kaczynski, thanks, Millbilly, Stephen's friend confessed about doing that, that they did this and hid the stuff in Crivets. Then they said Stephen, on his honeymoon with Lori, Brendan's stepmom, on his honeymoon, he stole stuff. BS. Oh, Brenda, the Brenda chick, BS. Said Stephen would harass people and threaten people. Yep, okay. Again, Stephen's not the best guy, whatever. Lori, his wife, said Stephen stalked his ex-girlfriend, Wendy. And then mentions that Stephen ran his cousin off the road. And episode 2, this is where episode 1 ends. And they end with saying episode 2 will pick up on the Sandra Morris crap. So let's get into episode 2 while I have 15 minutes to go. Here we go. Episode 2 is called Sharing Wives. They start with the whole cruelty to animals, the cat in the fire. They've got one of Stephen's jail calls, which is a call when Dolores is asking Stephen. She wanted to know who did the cat stuff. And Stephen said it was Jerry Yonda, which it was. It was Jerry Yonda. And then that's when Candace says, what does everybody say? If you hurt animals, it means you're going to kill people. No, it doesn't. Because how many hunters are there in this world? Does that mean everybody who goes hunting kills people? You're hurting animals. I'm sorry. We can argue about hunting. I'm somebody who doesn't want anything killed. So throwing a cat in a fire or going and shooting a deer, to me, I'm sorry, is same thing. Everybody's going to be mad at me. I don't care, but you're hurting animals. So I don't think because you go hunt deer that it means you're going to kill people. I don't like animals being euthanized at a pound or whatever you want to call it. So are you saying the people who stick that needle in dogs and cats and whatever to euthanize those animals, that that means they're going to kill people? Whatever. Um, and now we get to my buddy Earl. Oh, Earl. Earl is a willing participant in this. Shocker. Earl, have you ever seen Earl's record? Cruelty is different than hunting. I agree, Melissa, but I I still don't want animals killed. Period. So, um, but Earl tells a story to the mockumentary that Steven's dog ran away, and when Steven came back with it, it was bloody because Steven chained the dog and dragged it behind his car. But Earl has no credibility. So anything Earl says, I take with a grain of salt. Look into Earl's record and what Earl's done. Um, Now they're to turning to Sandra Morris. They want to separate her from Steven, so they want to make sure you know that her father's sister married an Avery, so they're not blood related. And here we go. Something to really make me mad. They show pathetic rally footage and the two people that are willing participants, Christine and Megan. Yay! Oh, how I dislike those two broads. And I can go on and on about what those two chicks have done in this case, but I don't have time right now. Um, but I thought it was funny in the video that they're showing of Christine at a rally. She's wearing a sign my husband made. But anyway, that my husband designed it, and she was wearing it. Didn't have his permission. Um, Megan claims that she was really close to the family. No, she wasn't. And then they claim they organized the next rally, which is not true. I did. Hilarious. Um, we'll get into that another time. Um, so then the show is talking about they're making it out like making a murderer wanted is trying to make Sandy look bad, and by saying that Sandy had gone to several taverns and was a drinker. But Sandy, when she was being deposed in his wrongful conviction, says she doesn't recall going to any bars. Um, so then they talk about the why Stephen was upset with Sandy, that Sandy was going around saying Stephen was doing things like jerking off in his yard and having sex with his wife in the yard to intentionally bother Sandy as she drives to work every day, which has never made any sense to me whatsoever. And so what the documentary is claiming is it was never Sandy who reported that. It was an anonymous neighbor that was reporting to the police on this kind of behavior about Stephen. Um, Sandy says that Stephen, the one day, then drove behind her, hit the back of her car, pointed a gun at her, and ordered her into his car, and he let go of her after he knew there was a kid in the car. But she said, but he followed me. But even as they're showing her tell the story, it's he went to a stop sign and she went one way and he turned around and went home. So I don't know how that's following. And now I don't remember what was in making a murderer all on the Sandy Morris thing. And they're like, they never told you that the kid was in the car. But it's like, I've always known the kid was in the car, and Stephen let her go when he knew there was a kid in the car. So I don't know if I learned it in Making a Murderer or the stuff that I looked into afterwards, but I've always known there was a kid in the car. Nothing was hidden from me. Um, so then we see Fassbender. And he said Making a Murderer made Steven into the victim when Sandy Morris is really the victim. Oh, tear. You see how sad I am for poor Sandy Morris. Then they take shots at people who say Steven always takes accountability for everything he does. And then they go, but he denied the Sandy Morris thing because when cops got there, he pretended he had just been sleeping. Yeah, so Steven, at first, when cops come to the door, he's faking it. Whatever. I guess I'm a bad person. I see why that would happen. But then when he knows he's caught, he fesses up. And they say the only reason Steven was foiled on this is because a smart cop felt his car, that it was warm, so they knew it wasn't true that he had been home sleeping. And then they found his gun underneath the kid's bed. All stuff I knew already. This is nothing new to me, and I still believe in Steven's innocence. Candace blames the filmmakers for painting Sandy in a bad light. Again, tear. Steven got sentenced to 6 years for the Sandy Morris thing. And I've always said it. I know other people have said it. Steven was always going to be doing time. So yes, he served 18 years. That we always say he was served 18 years falsely convicted. But technically, he was sentenced to 6 for Sandy, so he would have been going to jail. But you also don't know, remember, not the lawyer and not the loser who pretends to be one. You don't know if any of that would have been reduced or whatever. So can't watch it for free, Sarah. You got to pay $15 a month. That's why I'm watching it, so you don't have to. So, but I've been saying for years, Steven always would have done time. We always knew that. Then we see Candy Avery. Oh, lovely Candy. And Candy says that Sandy's case was dropped when Penny Bernson's case started, but it then got rolled into it. Now they want to make Steven look bad because Steven, when he was in jail, wanted porn. So they say that he would send his wife things he would cut out from magazines that he would want her to reenact and take a picture of and send to him. And she had her children take those pictures of her. So that's Lori Dassey. Well, she was Lori Avery at the time. Now Lori Dassey, married to Brendan's dad. Steven's in jail, so he can't make the kids take pictures of their mom doing whatever she was doing. That's all Lori's doing. Then they touched a little bit on Lori's letters where she says she's going to kill the kids and herself. But Candace tries to just explain that away as poor Lori had 5 young kids having to do all by herself, and it was hard. So excuses for Lori saying she's going to kill her kids. But when Steven says something nasty, Steven's a killer. No, Lori's now a killer because she said she was going to kill her kids. Mom saying she's going to kill her kids. But don't think about that Lori said she was going to kill her kids. That's okay. Then we see Earl again. He said Steven asked him to take care of Lori and the kids, but he was only 14 or 15 at the time. Earl said Steven would make him do sex stuff with Lori, and they would do it while on the phone with Steven, so he could listen to it. Again, look up Earl's record. in what Earl has done to Candy, to his children. And then you try to tell me that he was forced to do something sexual with Lori. Just saying. Best episode in your life? You need to get out more, I guess. Um, and they put a graphic up on the screen saying Lori refused to talk to the mockumentary. Back to Candy saying she didn't know Steven for the first 2 years that she was with Earl. All of a sudden, she's hearing that Dolores is gonna go visit Steven, and she's like, Steven who? Um, Whatever. Um, and then it was Earl made Candy visit Steven, and that Steven would talk sexually to Candy. And Candy was upset. One time she went on a visit with Dolores, and Dolores wanted Candy to be the one sitting on the bench because there was just a bench and a chair, and Dolores took the chair and said, so they're making it out like now Dolores did something wrong for being the elderly lady wanting to sit on a chair than sitting on a wooden bench, that it must mean she was like trying to pimp Candy out to her son. Candy said Steven told her, we share wives in this family, and that Steven also wrote her letters that were inappropriate. And then Anjanette Levy had FOIA'd all of Steven's mail. And so she got like all the cards and such that he sent to his kids. And these cards would say, when he gets out, he's going to kill mommy. They also showed clips of an old interview with Steven's twin boys. And the interview was with Anjanette. Or no, then there was an interview that Steven was doing with Anjanette. And she asked him why would he write those letters. And he said he was trying to win his wife back. Now, they didn't go more into it there because it's like, that sounds odd. Why would he say he's trying to win her back? But that will be explained. Oh my God, I have to go in 1 minute. Steven and Lori divorced in February of 1988. The kids didn't want to visit Steven. They said they were poked and pinched when they were there. Earl claimed that Steven beat up at some point, not while he was in jail, obviously, that Earl beat up Jason, the one son that, what's her face, Lori had from a prior relationship, and knocked 2 of his teeth out, that he punched him and knocked 2 of his teeth out. And then in 1993, his rights to visit his kids were terminated by Judge Hazelwood because of Steven's threat to murder the mom with a gun, but nobody came and took her kids away because she also threatened to kill the kids, so they were fine. But they said, oh no, the kids were fine with the mom, but it's okay that she said on multiple occasions she was going to kill her children. So here's now where you get to why Steven would say he was trying to win them back. He said when he wrote the stuff to his kids, he's thinking his kids can't read and his wife's going to win them. So he was saying those things for his wife to see. So he wasn't meaning it to be said to the kids. Lori then married Pete Dassey, and she has said that she feels that Penny Bernstein saved her life because she thinks if Steven didn't get put away, that he would have killed her. Insert eye roll. In 2003, DNA then proved Steven was innocent, and now they want to harp again on he would have served 6 years for Penny Bernstein case. They said Penny Bernstein felt guilty and wanted to help fix the system. You hear Griesbach talk on a podcast about it a little bit, and then you get Peg Lagenschlager ruled that nothing was criminal on what law enforcement did to put Stephen away for Penny Bernstein. Then we see Earl again saying Stephen's boys had no relationship with him when he got out, only his daughter Jenny. And but Lori said Jenny would get hickeys on her neck from Stephen, that Stephen just thought it would be funny. Um, Earl said that Stephen beat Barb. And then Candace Owens says Stephen has a pattern of abusing women. But it's funny how they didn't mention that Chuck had sex with Barb. So you're going to say Stephen is bad in claiming that he hit Barb, yet you're not going to talk about her brother Chuck raping her and his own daughters. The episode ends with hearing Jody talking to Wiegert and Fassbender about Marie. Marie is Candy's daughter from a prior relationship. She said that Marie kept calling and she asked Stephen why, and then Stephen admitted as Jody claims that Stephen fucked Marie. Jody said that is when Stephen started beating her because she said that he was sick for having sex with a minor. I think she was 17. And his niece, even though it's niece, not by blood. And episode 3 will pick up with Marie. So that's where I sadly have to end this because I have 2 people coming to my house right now and we are supposed to leave here in 10 minutes. When I am done with them, maybe I will try to watch some more. You're just going to have to stay tuned for when I'm going to happen to go live because I just don't know. I have to work all day tomorrow. So I don't know when I'm going to see these episodes and when I'll go live. So you won't get much of a heads up. So make sure that you, I'm doing this on Facebook, right? Yeah, this is on Facebook because YouTube wouldn't let me go live. So I guess I'll just finish up and do the rest here. All right, I'm out. And, don't give these people any money. We will talk again soon. Investigation continues.